Hi, everyone. This is your host, Kristen Howe, and I am so excited to welcome you to our call today with our guest, Lynn McKenzie. Now, Lynn, also known as the Prosperity Alchemist, helps healers, intuitives, and spiritual entrepreneurs combine their divine intuitive gifts and talents with energetics and proven business principles to create livelihoods that are in alignment with their soul's highest calling. The creator of multiple six-figure businesses herself, Lynn is an internationally acclaimed intuitive and since 1993 has coached and consulted with thousands of entrepreneurs to create similar breakthroughs. She works with individuals who desire to step into their divine mission and make a bigger impact on the world. She's a natural-born leader and is also a teacher, author, speaker, and healer. And on today's call with Lynn, you will discover how to truly manifest divine prosperity now. You'll find out how prosperity and lack of prosperity are so closely related, and you'll find out how you can be sure to anchor yourself in prosperity. You'll find out the one thing that plays the most important role in activating your prosperity chops, and you'll discover the role your psychic and intuitive skills play in your prosperity and abundance. So I can't wait for this call, Lynn. I'm so excited to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us, and welcome.
Thank you, Kristen. It's a pleasure to be here.
I love having you here. I love being able to share you because you're this really cool mixture of, prosperity, alchemy, and all of this, but you've also got, like real down-to-earth stuff. So I just love that combination. Can you share us a little bit of your story so we can discover kind of how you got there?
Yes, absolutely. I've been sort of on a spiritual path or a spiritual mission since my late teens, and, I'm now in my early 50s, so it's been a long path. And I have been, really on both sides of the coin. I've been really far over in the spiritual, intuitive healing sort of realm, and then I've been also very much in the business realm and very successful at business. And as the years went by, I actually quit a really fabulous career as a realtor to follow my heart's calling to be a healer and an intuitive. And what's interesting is, as the years went on, I realized that I really wasn't making a living, so to speak. I was using up the equity from my home that I had sold and that kind of thing. And I realized there's got to be a way to blend the two. And I just managed to kind of crack the code or find the way to blend the two so that you actually, are using the business knowledge, the marketing skills, all of that that's necessary to be successful in any business, but really blending them with the intuitive side, with using your psychic intuitive powers, stepping into your own divinity and really understanding the powerful person that you are, and really creating phenomenal results for yourself that way. So even for people who are employed, they don't have to be self-employed, but really knowing how to blend the two is what I realized my life's mission was really about, and teaching others how to do that. Because both sides of the coin, both sides are equally important. If you're too far one way or the other way, I just don't feel you're living in your true power.
And living in our true power, it's so funny because so many people, especially listening, I hear from so many of them and they're like, I want to live in my true power. How do I even start to figure out what that is, right? People feel so distant from that. Are you finding that as well?
Yeah, I'm finding it. I have some different things that I take people through, assessments and different things like that, to give people a real feel of their soul's calling. And, I truly believe it's something we can all learn. And part of the biggest part about learning it is just taking a step on that path to studying it. Knowledge is really great. Knowledge eventually permeates into our cells, and until it's in our cells, we don't really know it, until we're actually embodying what we know. Because, sometimes I'll have someone say, oh, I already know all that. And, I've said it myself. And it's like, you know what? If I already know it all, I would be living it all. So right. Until I'm actually living it, I don't really know it at the level I need to know it. And human beings are kind of funny. We have our own little quirky resistances and funny little things. Some of us will fight for our limitations for dear life.
Yeah.
And it's so funny when you think about it that way, but that's what's really happening. And I feel that just stepping onto the path of being a perpetual student of prosperity, manifesting, living in our power, really understanding our divine skills and gifts that we came with. We all have amazing gifts and skills. And, we really are meant to share them. There was a little quote going around, and I can't even remember who wrote it, but it said something like, your gifts and talents are your gift from God or Spirit or whatever you want to call it. And your gift back to God or Spirit is using them, expressing them, So we're not giving these things to be, secretive with. We're meant to share them with the world. And stepping onto the path of studying this, of learning, of practicing, of doing whatever you can to really embody the knowledge that you need to be able to express those gifts and offer those gifts, I think is, to me, that's the true spiritual path.
I so agree. Okay, so let's talk about prosperity, and something that I brought up early in the call, and I really want to hear what you have to say about this, because I was like, bruh, is you say prosperity and lack of prosperity are really closely related. So can you sort of fill us in on that? Because I'm sure people are like, wait, what do you mean? How is that possible?
Yes, absolutely. They are like two sides of one coin, really. I used that phrase a little bit earlier, but they are like two sides of a coin. We are creative beings. We are completely, constantly creating, whether we know it or not, whether it's intentional or not, and we are constantly creating. And we are creating all kinds of things within our lives, mindsets, beliefs, and one of the things I want to share is really our prosperity or lack, either way, is really a mindset. And that might sound like a really simple statement. It is a simple statement, but there's a lot behind it. How we approach almost everything in our lives, how flexible we are, how willing we are to learn new things, to change our opinions, to change our belief systems, change our decisions, change our actions, all of that. That will determine whether what we're creating is taking us closer to prosperity or closer to lack. Because what we're creating, you could think of, like a page of paper, and you write prosperity at the top and lack at the bottom, and you're somewhere in the middle there. You're either going up or down. The universal laws do not account for staying stagnant. We're always moving either closer to prosperity or closer to lack. And when we think about that, then we can start to be more conscious in our thoughts, in our actions, in our mindsets, and our beliefs. And, all of those things play a huge part, because what we believe really is, everything falls down below that. Everything we do comes from what we believe. And we can change our beliefs. One of the things that I think is so interesting is a belief that we have is simply an idea that we made real. And a belief is just an idea we made real. And when I first heard that, and I don't even remember where I heard it, but when I first heard it, I went, wow, that is so cool, because we have places where, if you look at yourself and 5 other people, you're going to have different beliefs for sure. Anyone who's married can probably attest to that, or has kids, we have different belief systems. And we have the ability to change those belief systems. And when we change them, we can start to move in either direction. I mean, we could change our belief systems in such a way that we're going to start heading more towards lack, or we can change them in such a way that we start heading more towards prosperity. It's such a simple concept. And I know people who are sitting in lack are not believing that, but it really is. It's like bombarding all of your senses and all of your spare time with things that are going to help you create what it is you want to create and take you away from what it is you don't want to create. And, really the focus is really got to be on what it is you want to create and what will take you closer. I take every opportunity to learn more and more about what I can. That's going to bring me there. And I'm in a good place now. I'm very happy. Everything's going great. I have amazing opportunities coming into my experience at all times. And yet I know there's more. So I keep going, okay, if something comes across my experience and it looks like a great thing, I'm going to learn about it.
You know, I love that you just said that. Something else that you said in there, which is, you know, and things are great. And I think what happens a lot of times for people, I've seen this happen so many times, is that they start working with all of this stuff and it's working great. And then their lives start to turn around and they're like, yay. And so then they just go, okay, great. I don't have to think about that anymore. It's more of a way of life, right?
Yes. We are creating every minute of every day, every second of every minute. You know, so we are constantly creating. It doesn't take too many minutes or hours or days to turn around, to start going up the page, or the opposite, to turn around and start going down the page. And, you know, I was in real estate for 16 years, and I can tell you that most people in real estate are on a roller coaster. Most realtors, they're really broke, they need a sale. All of a sudden they work really hard, they start making all these sales, they get exhausted, and they go, oh great, I've made all these sales, I have all this money, I can relax. And then, you know, they relax too much and they get off their path, and then next thing you know, they're really broke, oh my God, I got to make money. It's like that all the time. It's a rare realtor who has an even, steady stream. And I do remember once years ago in the very late 80s, the administrator for the RE/MAX office I worked for, you know, she came and handed me a check and she said, Lynn, you are the most consistent earner in this office. And, you know, which was interesting because I wasn't the biggest earner in the office. Some people made more money than me, but she said, there's nobody that I pay as regularly as you. And, you know, and I've had my share of the roller coaster ride too. But I remember her saying that to me, and I was in my sweet spot with real estate there. Everything was going perfect for me. I was so, you know, I had my energy was good. Everything was perfect about how I was working. But that's a nice way to be, as opposed to that roller coaster ride, which some of you, you know, who may be self-employed, who aren't in real estate, understand that roller coaster ride too. Because lots of people can go, okay, now I've got cash. Okay, I can relax, you know. And meanwhile, it's like, no, you really can't. You got to still be at least using your energy and your beliefs and your mindset and keeping your inner power going in the right direction, even if you're taking a physical rest.
I love taking a physical rest, which is essential, by the way, everyone.
Yes, absolutely.
So many people forget that part. Okay, yes. So let's say we're doing really well and we're like, yes, I am moving more toward prosperity than lack of prosperity. And then suddenly we catch ourselves, as you said, it's a slippery slope. You didn't say those words, but you know what I mean, where suddenly your attention shifts. How do we quickly get ourselves back toward prosperity? Does that make sense? Like back anchored in that? Okay.
Yes, absolutely. You know, the very biggest thing, because as soon as we notice that, the first thing most of us do is what? Panic, right? How did this happen? How did I create this? Or, you know, hopefully you're conscious enough to realize you created it. So it's like, it's go into panic mode and start worrying and start going, oh my God, am I going to have enough money to pay my mortgage next month? Or am I going to, you know, whatever. And all this fear kicks in. And the thing is, fear is going to bring you in what direction? You know, the opposite of where you want to be. So what you have to do really to anchor yourself right away in that prosperity is you have to literally turn it around. You can out loud, if you're by yourself or in your car, you can like yell stop when those thoughts hit you, or, you know, just immediately do it really powerfully, like really yell it out. Or if you're, you know, amongst a lot of people, like in a Starbucks, you may not want to do that. You might want to just kind of in your head, just yell stop really loud as soon as those thoughts come, like really realize it's like poison. It's like if poison was sitting in front of you, you wouldn't eat it. So those thoughts are like that because they're only going to take you further down the rabbit hole. So what you need to immediately do is to step into, really connect with the higher part of yourself, the part of yourself that really knows the wisdom, the gifts, the truths, all of the power that you are, and start to completely focus, even if you have to put a note everywhere in your home, in your car, on your dog's leash, whatever you spend your time, on your stroller handle, whatever it is, and actually remind yourself, because human beings, we have, I don't know how many thoughts a day. I've heard about how many thoughts a day we have. And do you know there's about something like 4 times as many words in the English language that describe bad emotions as there are words to describe good emotions. So it tells you, where we're coming from as a race in general. And so what's really important is to put your focus in that way and actually sit down and analyze your life and what areas might be dragging you down. Watching the news is probably not a good idea.
Yep.
The only thing that comes out of the news, I mean, if something good happened, they don't very rarely, want to talk about it. TV's all about sensationalism. There's some things you could probably watch on TV that might be inspiring, for me, it's a singing competition just because I like to watch the transformation of these young singers, and really watch them step into their divinity and their power. But be really careful about everything that's in your life and really look at because every minute counts. So how every minute is spent, and every time you have the ability, maybe you work somewhere and you don't like it. Well, try to keep your thoughts positive and keep yourself bubbled from the environment. And whatever you have to do, maybe you can listen to, an iPod with positive music on it or positive words or something like that while you're working. It depends on your career, of course, but spend every single minute thinking about where you want it to be and what little actions you can take, because every big leap involves a lot of little steps. If you're at a certain place financially, let's say you want to increase your income you want to double it. There's a lot of little steps involved. There is a way to leap, but there's still little steps to take as you're leaping. So, and not thinking of how am I going to get from this, 50,000 to 100,000, or how am I going to get from 100,000 to 200,000, or whatever it is for you. There's always a way to do it, but it takes a lot of little things. Each thing that you do, each word that comes out of your mouth, each thought that goes through your head.
I love that. Okay, so what role do our psychic and intuitive skills play in all of this, in prosperity and abundance?
That's an absolutely great question, because I am a believer that, number one, we all are intuitive, whether we know it or not, just like we're all creating, whether we know it or not. We're all very intuitive, and there is a part of ourselves, an inner knowing, a guidance, whatever you want to call it, that is a part of each and every minute of our lives if we choose to tap into it. And, you may have to work on developing it a little bit if you don't feel you're remotely psychic and intuitive, or you may already know you're psychic intuitive, but you maybe don't know how to use it the best way, or you might already be using it. But I believe we can actually I want to say move energy, manipulate energy. I don't mean manipulate for a bad way, but manipulate energy if we're doing it for a higher source to help create more favorable situations and conditions for ourselves. And I'll give you a couple of examples. I use my psychic intuitive skills almost by the minute, definitely by the hour and almost by the minute, to really tune in to everything that comes across. Because in a day, for anybody who's remotely busy, we have a lot of things that are coming across our plate, or coming across, our experience. And we have to be discerning. Sometimes really when it comes to heading for prosperity, it's not so much about getting more. Sometimes it's about getting rid of certain things, cutting some things out of our lives, saying no to some things that come across the table to us. So we have to really start to tune in to our psychic intuitive skills and start to really discern in a big way what really feels right for us and what doesn't feel right. Sometimes something could come across, your experience. And from an intellectual point of view, it looks good, it makes sense. But if you really tune in deeply, you might have like a gut feeling that that's not for you. And I really want to encourage listeners to start trusting their intuition and their psychic abilities when it comes to opportunities, when it comes to even social events, everything. I remember one day I was going to, I think it was like a drumming or a pipe ceremony with this guy who's pretty famous, who was in town, and some of my clients who were in town from out of town were going, and I was going to be able to see them there. And I got all ready for it. And I was actually walking out the door of my house with a bottle in my hand, and I just got this like energy come over me that just went down so low that I just thought, I cannot do this. And it didn't make sense to me. And I thought, this is weird. They're going to wonder why I didn't come. I said, I'm going to come, and, all of this. And it's so funny because I was talking to them afterwards, and I explained to them that this is what happened. It was like a wall came out in front of me saying, do not cross, So right. I wasn't going to argue with it for whatever reason. And, I don't know if this is the reason, but they told me it ended up being a really weird, it wasn't anything like it normally is. There was some very strange things happening, and, that may or may not have been it. It didn't matter. I followed it. But really, we can bring it into things like our investments, houses we're going to buy, stocks and bonds we're going to trade, or whatever it is that you do, however you work or however you exist in life, you can bring it into all those places, because prosperity, even the energies that you have, even just, even if you're taking your child for a play date or your dog for a play date, which I do, even that, you really can tune in and get a sense of what the energy of that is going to be like, and if it's the best thing for you. Because all of that plays a role in our prosperity, and it sounds funny, but every single thing we do plays a role in our prosperity. And I'm going to, a little bit later in the call, I'm going to do an exercise which I think of as kind of using your psychic intuitive skills. It's kind of a healing, kind of energetic exercise, but it's really using your psychic intuitive skills as well.
Very cool. Yes. And everyone, you're going to want to hang out for that. So let me ask you this, because I know, literally, I was like, I know this is coming up for some people. How do you know the difference between an intuitive hit and like some limiting belief that shows up as major fear and tries to convince you it's your intuition?
I'm so glad you asked me that, because your intuition tends to be very positive. Your intuition doesn't come along and go, beware of the la, la, la. Like some people will tell you, if you go to a psychic, they'll go, beware of, whatever. Your intuition, I always feel, is phrased more in the positive. It's really kind of like, our intuition is very much linked to our imagination as well. And, not that we can't imagine bad things. That's really when we get into our fear. But when you think about fear versus inspiration, I really feel, your intuition may give you a strong no. But it's just a strong no. It's not a, when I got that strong no when I was walking out the door, it wasn't like I felt like I got anything like, ooh, this is going to happen or that's going to happen and all of this stuff. That's imagination running down the rabbit hole of fear. But it's just very benign when it comes to negative thoughts and negative stories and all of that. When you hear that, I feel that from a psychic or intuitive, I feel that's really being filtered through some of their own fears. And our intuition tends to be more on the inspiring side of things. I'll give you an example of, let's say, buying a house. Let's say you're looking at a house. I know this one because I sold real estate for so long. You're looking at a house, you find the perfect house, you're scared because it's such a big investment, and you put an offer in on the house and you negotiate, and, you still could be really scared during the negotiation because it might go higher than the price you wanted to pay and you got more fear. Well, let's just put it this way. If your fear is greater than your inspiration or your intuition to know it's the right house for you, you may back out during the negotiation. A lot of times it is the right house for you, but your fear takes over. If you're someone who has a pretty good handle on what is fear and what is your intuition, you may go ahead with the sale. But then usually what happens to people is even when it's the perfect house for them and everything goes well, they get the house and it's like 48 hours later, almost everybody goes into what is called buyer's remorse, which many of you have probably experienced in your lives. And that is all fear because you knew it was the right house. You looked around. You didn't buy the first house you saw probably, although I've done that before and it was the right house too. I've done that based on my intuition. But it's like you have temporarily allowed your fears to kick up. So that is not your intuition saying, oh my God, you made a big mistake, don't do that. If that's going to come up for you, it's going to come up before you make the offer. While you're looking at the property, somewhere along the line, it's not going to all of a sudden seem like it's right, and then all of a sudden it's wrong. That's not how it works. So sometimes our own fears just kick up and we think it's our intuition. But I really feel like our intuition is always there to pull us forward because it's directly related to, our higher self and the divine. And that is all about pulling us forward. And being pulled forward can have fears attached. Absolutely. Because when we're stretching into a new way of being, whether it's we're up-leveling our house to a much nicer house or whether we're up-leveling ourselves or whatever it is, we have to start getting out of our comfort zone to do that. And we have to, it's like we're stretching our comfort zone, and really it's not comfortable when you're not in your comfort zone. And it's funny because I always ask clients, that I'm going to work with in a much deeper way for a much longer period of time. Are you willing to get out of your comfort zone? And they all say yes. And then when it comes right down to it, it's like, no, I'm comfortable right here. I don't want to move. We have to be willing to do that because to grow means to get bigger. If you watch a plant grow, it's no longer 1 inch tall anymore. It's 4 inches tall. That's a different zone it's in. It's like it has to get used to those little stretches so that it can get bigger. And that's how we are. We're absolutely like that. So when we receive our guidance, it's going to be to pull us forward. Mm-hmm. And the rest of it is a bunch of, as one of my friends says, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of blah, blah, blah going on in our heads.
That's true. And we can attach to that blah, blah, blah pretty quickly.
Oh, my gosh. Yes. I'll just give one little tip for listeners. If you have like a massively big story around something that just goes on and on and on, chances are it's your blah, blah, blah. It's that it's that information, it's that fear, it's that energy that does not want you to stretch. It's like, interesting. That's where your fear is fighting to keep you in the same place that you've always been.
Wow. Okay. Very cool. All right. So it's really what we're talking about today is how you truly manifest divine prosperity and how you begin doing this now, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
One of the things that you talk about, you say there are 8 channels of alignment for manifesting prosperity. So I'm assuming that ties into that. Obviously, we don't have time for you to give us all 8, but can you just give us an idea of a few of them to really give us just a feel for this?
Yes, absolutely. And, I want to share something. We're talking a little bit about manifesting prosperity, but this would work whether you want to manifest a relationship, whether you want to manifest something physical like a new location or whatever it is. That is really how it works. And I want to say something else, just one little tip before I get into some of these levels of alignment or channels of alignment, as I call them. The worst thing you can ever do if you're manifesting, and I've seen this over and over again, and I'm sure the people who are doing it don't understand what they're doing, but you've all probably seen people who say, oh, I wished I could live there, or I wished I could live in a house like that, or I wished I could have a horse like that, or whatever it is that they wish for. Mm-hmm. But you know that behind that wish, there is not one iota of commitment, of, of responsibility. There's no sense of action whatsoever that goes behind that. And to me, that is almost like not manifesting. It's almost like counter at manifesting when you do something like that. Like, that it just feels like, or when you wish for something that's not within your power even, it's kind of a way of just admitting, I know I don't have any power, so I'm just hoping somehow, somewhere along the line, someone's going to come along and make this happen for me because I'm not. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So I just wanted to mention that. So when it comes to the 8 channels of alignment for manifesting prosperity, the top channel is the channel of spirit or the divine. And really what it's about is the channel of spirit of the divine connects us with our own sense of purpose and passion and with our mission. And it's really about our big why. Why is it that you want to do what you want to do? Or why is it that you want to have what you want to have? That is key, because a lot of us will go, oh yeah, I want that and I want that and I want that. But if we don't really stop and kind of connect with the higher reason, we have to have a sense of that higher reason for it to happen for us. And that is the first area that I believe in focusing on. First of all, is the big reason behind it. There has to be one. Even if it's a monetary amount, there's got to be we don't just manifest money so we can have it sit in our bank completely. And, let's just say if you're listening to the call and you had another $200,000 in your bank account tomorrow, if you manifested that, you don't want to just manifest it so that you have it necessarily. I mean, you may have a reason. Maybe you want to retire early and you can put that in investment now and it'll, there's a bigger picture to it. Another really key piece is your identity, who you think of yourself as, or who you see yourself as. And what's interesting about this is this plays a huge potential in your manifesting. And, we talked a little bit about psychic intuitive skills and manifesting skills. And one of the things that I've noticed after teaching psychic intuitive development for, upwards of 20 years, is that a huge piece of people getting it is they finally decide to see themselves as a psychic or an intuitive or a healer. It's like they take all this external training and learning and reading books and, practicing and studying and whatever it is. And one day they go, I think that's enough. I think I now feel like that's who I am. But, contrary to that, you can actually make the decision to be what you want to be and think of yourself as a certain way. That is a huge step in this process of manifestation, is seeing yourself as who you are. So, I would actually recommend that for each of the listeners, you actually sit down and write who you think you are. And I would write it in a short, powerful statement, like I am, the manifestation and psychic mastery expert, author, and coach. That's when I wrote at one point in time in the past. So, owning that, taking it on, because how you become an expert or how you become well-known or, move to the top of your field is by taking on that belief system. No one ever got to be the president or, anything along those lines without having that within them, something big that they wanted to manifest without having that belief system of who they thought of themselves as. So the next channel, so we've already got the channel of spirit, we've got the channel of personal identity. Now we have the channel of belief systems. And, our belief systems are simply, they basically support our personal identity, first of all. So if you find somebody who has a really low personal identity, the belief systems are not there to hold that up. So sometimes if we want to change our personal identity, we have to change our belief systems too. Everything funnels down from the channel of spirit, and every level or channel below the channel above helps and supports that channel. So when it comes to belief systems, you have to think of what you're programmed to believe, to do, and to think. That's something that everyone can look at. What are you programmed to believe, do, and think? Because it simply is that. Like I said, I mean, a belief is just an idea that you made real, or, you know, someone else made real for you and indoctrinated you when you were a child. So really, there are people who have all kinds of belief systems that are supporting them to create massive, massive change and manifest exactly what they want. And that is phenomenal. And, you know, part of, you know, doubling your income comes with a belief system that it's possible. I want to tell you, it's possible to double your income every year if you truly believe it and you want to do what it takes to make it happen. I mean, maybe not if you're employed by somebody else, but if you were self-employed, there is a very straight path to doing it. So you have to ask yourself, what would you have to believe to make whatever it is you want possible? You know? And if you have a belief that just doesn't seem to serve you, like let's say you believe that women can't make more than $40,000 a year or whatever it may be, you know, you can ask yourself, what if that were no longer important to you? I guarantee you there's millions of women out there, or, you know, hundreds of thousands anyways, who believe that, you know, that women can make $4 million a year, you know. So, and that's just a silly little one. But whatever it is that you may believe right now, if you have a belief that's no longer serving you, just ask yourself, what if that were no longer important? What would that change for you? What would that create for you? Okay.
I love that. That's really powerful.
It is. It is. Because, you know, I always have a coach, because I truly believe that as human beings, when we have the support of someone who's looking at our situation from a different perspective than we are, phenomenal things happen for us. And, you know, I was just talking with my coach. I'll just share this because I was actually out of town last week, and I was having some private business planning days with my coach. And it's so interesting because I wanted to align myself with somebody who's a little bit higher on the food chain than myself because I thought we would be really great at collaborating together. And I knew I had a lot to offer her, but she's maybe, you know, she's more well-known than I am. And it's so interesting because my coach said to me, you know, I said, well, what would I understand me wanting to do this with her, but what would I have to offer her? And she quickly rattled off 5 things like in a row, and I went, oh yeah, you know, and it's something that when I was stretching myself in that moment and creating a new belief system for myself, I had just forgotten them. They just went right out of my head. And I was like, oh yeah, right. Okay. I got it. I'm good. And, you know, she said, okay, so why don't you use one of your exercises to, you know, realign with this energy? And I used an exercise like what we're going to do in this call to visualize myself already having I visualized that energy of what it would be like to be with a large number, like peers with a large number of people in that level. And, you know, and then stepped into it and then knew it's already happened in the ethers. It just has to manifest in physical. Well, I got home late Saturday night, and Monday morning at 9:30, I got an email from someone introducing, out of the blue, somebody I know from the past, saying, you know, I want to introduce you to this guy. I think, you know, you could have some really great collaboration. And I called him, or he called me, however it worked. And, you know, it was already a step towards, it was bringing me up into this level of some of the people that were right at that level I wanted. So it was like less than 36 hours after changing that kind of belief system and changing how I feel about myself, I had already moved to that next level.
Wow.
It's that fast.
That's huge. I love that we were able to actually have the time for you to be able to go into that channel, because I think that's definitely one of the ones that probably most people are sitting there nodding their heads going, yeah, that really affects me and limits me and holds me back. I love that you shared that. That's amazing.
Yeah, that's good.
and we don't necessarily have time to go into the rest of the channels of alignment, but we can see how powerful they are. I would love, though, if we could do that exercise, especially since you just mentioned having done it yourself. It would be great to be able to experience it. Does that work for you?
Yes, absolutely.
Fantastic.
So if any of the listeners can stand up, that would be great. If you're in a place where you can stand up, that would be great. You don't have to be, but if you can stand up, I just find it a bit more powerful. So what I want you to do is stand up, and I want you to think of something that you would like to manifest for yourself. And it could absolutely be about prosperity and abundance. It could even be about something else. And I want you to visualize yourself in a bubble right now. And it's a nice, like egg-like a bubble all around you, going above your head, below your feet, so it actually goes under the floor. And this is your aura. This is your energy field. This is everything that is currently making up you as you are now, including all of your belief systems, your mindsets, the decisions you make, your connection with spirit, all of it, your intuitive abilities. And I want you to think of what it is you'd like to manifest. And I want you to create a bubble in front of you that is going to contain everything it is you want to manifest. And let's say you want to increase your income by $50,000 for year 2014 or $100,000, whatever it is. I'd like you to visualize all of that in the bubble. And I really want you to think about the channels of alignment that I was able to speak about just now. And I want you to visualize that all of that has been taken care of, your belief systems, your mindsets, you know, the things you've let go of, everything is taken care of in this bubble in front of you. So it's the perfect energetic package for you to be traveling around in to create what it is that you want to manifest. And it's going to go right down to the physical level. We mostly touched upon the higher levels. Okay, and I want you at the count of 3 to step boldly into that new bubble. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, and physically take a step into that bubble. And just feel yourself in this new bubble. Feel the energy around you. Know that everything has been calibrated for the perfect experience of you manifesting whatever it is that you had set your sights on at the beginning of the exercise. And you can turn around and just look back and, see your old bubble there and just allow that to dematerialize and just kind of turn to sand and drop to the ground and be swept away. And you are now in this new energetic bubble, this new bubble that has you much more intuitive, much more positive, really stepping into your power, your divinity, all of what you need to manifest what it is that you came here to manifest, including environment and support and the entire piece. And just remind yourself from time to time that you are now in this new bubble till you become accustomed to it. Maybe make a little note somewhere to keep reminding yourself so that your thoughts don't slip back to that old bubble, because we can actually recreate that old bubble for ourselves if we allow ourselves to. So really be aware of the fact that we're in a new bubble. That is it.
So cool. I love that. And it's so quick. I can see how we could literally just do this at any time.
It's so quick, and what's amazing is it's so phenomenally powerful. Like I just mentioned, it's funny that this all just happened. The couple of days before this call, this experience of mine, I've used this over and over again. I used to use this in a slightly different way to sell real estate. Mm-hmm. And I was in the top 10 of the top producing RE/MAX office in North America. So, I was able to, sometimes people would ask me how I was doing it. I would even use it to find the right house for my clients. We can't get into all that now, but it is so powerful. And, it seems so simple that we can discount it, but it works.
I love that. Okay, so one question here quickly is, you say there's one thing that plays the most important role in activating your prosperity chops, and I love that you call it prosperity chops. What is that one thing?
I think more than anything at all, it is taking 100% responsibility for every single thing that happens in your life. Being incredibly intentional, being accountable, being responsible, which also means, being in integrity, being in alignment with what it is that you want. That word responsibility is a huge word. And knowing that, if we're trying to manifest something, every other piece in our lives has to fall into place with that. We can't just be thinking, okay, we want to manifest this, but not bringing all of what kind of falls below it into alignment with it, because we've got to create the energy for it to happen. It's kind of like doing a painting or something. You can't do a painting that, if you're visualizing this beautiful painting and you only have blue and you're going to paint it, you have to have, the reds, the greens, the yellows, the oranges, whatever. You have to have all those colors, or at least the 3 or 4 colors that you can make all those colors with. I'm not an artist, so I know you can blend colors together, like, and make a color. Red and yellow makes orange or something like that. But let's just say all the colors were individual. So you need all of those pieces to be able to create that beautiful painting. And no matter how long you sit there and think about it, if you just have the paper and the brush and the blue paint, it's not going to come out how you want it. It might come out, but if your picture has color in it besides blue, it's not going to come out how you're trying to manifest. It's just like if you were trying to manifest a blue and white picture and you only had, orange paint, it's not going to happen. So you have to have, the responsibility is huge. It has to sort of flow into every cell of your being, into every experience you have. You have to start flowing it through. If, you don't want to waste your energy on crazy things like, I don't know why this is popping into my head, but some people go on internet forums and argue with other people. Like, if anyone who's ever gone to a forum to look up information on anything has probably seen that. It's like, and some people who do that, they actually keep changing their handle because they get kicked off the forums or, and they're just negative and all that stuff. So, that's just a really radical, extreme, example. But everything you're doing from the minute you wake up to, what you're thinking about when you're in the shower, that's a great time of day to get your manifesting going and set the tone for the day. What kind of day you're expecting to have. And, like lots of people go, oh, it's going to be an awful day. And it's like, you know what? It will be if that's what
Sure it will.
It's so important to really, that stepping into your divine power really means being intentional, being accountable, being responsible, being in alignment, being in integrity. Bringing all those things, and you may have to write them down and keep looking at them all day long to remind yourself, because humans are, we can get off track very easily, and focus as well. But that's really the key to it all.
I love that, and it's so true. And what a great thing, going back to your analogy about the painting, it's much better to feel like you are taking full responsibility for the painting than hoping that someone else is going to come in and paint their section of your painting the way you'd want it painted, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so I'm curious if you're able to share with us, and I know you have so many of these stories to share, but it's just really great for us to be able to hear what's possible for us if we start working with what you have here. So do you have some turnarounds that you can share with us that you've seen from people who have applied what you're teaching?
Absolutely. I have one of my clients, Carol, and she took one of my training programs, and she was a client of mine in the past, an intuitive client, and took much of my training in the past. But when my focus years ago really got into this, she took one of my programs, and she actually, after class 2, and I think it was a 7 or 8 class program, and after class 2, she sent me an actual testimonial that said that this is the best investment I've ever made. She said, my income has effortlessly increased to the point that I need to review my money speedometer, which is part of is something I teach about in some of my classes. And she said, I'm so excited to hear the rest of the results. This is obviously a learning tool that I needed desperately. And what she didn't write in that testimony, that experience that she had, was that she actually had always wanted to come to Arizona, and there was a training in Arizona, and she ended up making so much money, like her even before the program was even over, that she was actually able to come to Arizona for about a week and take a program, a training that she found. I was able to connect with her for a bite to eat while she was there. And she ended up, I hooked her up with someone I knew who she could go riding with. She ended up going and riding a horse I ride sometimes. And it was just really an amazing thing. And it was after 2 classes. I mean,
wow.
It was just crazy because she got into it. I've had so many different experiences. The biggest things that I can say, well, one of my clients actually tripled her income using one of the techniques that I teach. She was able to think about earning, and that client's name is Sharon. She was able to think about earning money in a different way and offering things in a slightly different format, which allowed her to make, 3 times what she made before, which was pretty phenomenal, and it was something she really wanted to do. Some of the biggest things that I hear from entrepreneurs over and over again, just not thinking of any one specific one, is how being in this energy creates an entirely different energy around them, which starts to open up opportunities all over the place, whether it's for new business ventures, whether it's for more income, whether it's for just sometimes they get checks in the mail they weren't even expecting, or whatever happens. Like, really amazing things start to happen, because what happens is when you start to step in to this energy and be consciously in it, the universe conspires. First of all, the universe goes, he's serious or she's serious. And she's made that stand for herself or himself. He's made that stand for himself. So everything starts to change. It really does. I mean, it's phenomenal. And I don't believe that there's a person out there who could not do this if they didn't wish to, and if they were willing to let go of some of the things that they may be holding on to that are not serving them any longer.
I love it. And that's, that's what I'm doing here. I love that that's what you just said, because I love to be able to expose these incredible people listening to, these interviews to, opportunities to take control of their lives, to paint their own painting, as you gave us that great analogy before. And so I just love, there's something about how you communicate that really is, it's inclusive of, universal energy and all of that. And yet it feels very, as I said in the beginning, very down to earth and very much like, yeah, I can do this. So I love that. And obviously there is so much more to learn from you, Lynn. It was like the tip of the iceberg, and that was just fantastic in everything you shared with us. So what I did, I asked you to create a special offer for everyone who's listening. You agreed to do so. Everyone listening, I highly, highly, highly encourage you, go to Lynn's special offer so you can experience it for yourself as she talks you through. So we've made it really simple for you, and you can just click on the special offer button that's on this page, and you will be taken right there. So Lynn, I'm going to let you, it's all yours. Go for it and let us know what we'll find there.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks. I was really excited about creating this offer for everyone because I was trying to think of what I could put together that would be really powerful and really allow the listeners to have a breakthrough. And that's really what it's all about. Life is about a series of breakthroughs, and success and manifesting is about a series of breakthroughs that allow us to move into our power so that we can really create whatever it is we want to create at any point in time. I know that whatever I set my mind to, I can do. And I want to share that it's absolutely not out of the question to, add an extra 1,000, 5,000, 10,000 to your monthly income. It is absolutely doable. And if you don't believe it, then that's where you can have a breakthrough, because when I didn't believe it, I didn't make it either. But I can tell you that I've had months way, way, way in excess of that using these principles. I probably don't even want to share because some people might not even think it's possible. But this program is Money Manifestation Secrets. And what it's made up of is, first of all, I'm going to share my 7-step money manifestation signature system, which you'll learn how the blueprint that I use that shows you the exact steps to take and the order to take them in to manifest money or whatever your heart desires. So that is a really profound system. It's been very invaluable to me. I'll just share something because I think it's important for people to know this. Back about 3 or 4 years ago, I had never had a 5-figure month, meaning making $10,000 or more. And when I really decided that I was going to make a change in a big way and started really aligning myself with this, I had a 5-figure month, which was over $10,000. The next month, the very next month, when I really made the decision in a big way, and this program helps you energetically get to that. Since then, I've had $20,000 and $30,000 days. I've even had a $60,000 week. So I want you to know that, and I did not know any of that was possible. And even when I did find out it was possible, I didn't think it was possible for me. I just thought it was possible for everybody else. So I want you to know that even if you're feeling like all of this is not possible for you, it absolutely is. Then I get into the next piece in this program is called Manifestation Energetics, and it's a 2-part class where we really explore the energetic side of manifestation, whether you're looking to manifest money, a gift, a talent, whatever it is. And there's an energy clearing component to this where I release blocks and imbalances and all of that kind of thing. I do clearings and attunements that work both on the conscious and subconscious level, because I find a lot of our issues blocking our manifestation and prosperity are subconscious. So this is a way that you actually get clearing. Then I have added in, I have a Clear Your Money Clutter class that is a part of this. They're MP3 downloads, I should say, but it's a class I taught. And it's some things that you can do in your own life to make sure your path for money to flow to you is clear, because some of us are blocking it off at the pass. There has to be a way for it to flow in, and this really is an important class on that. There's another MP3, Activating Your Clairvoyant Magic. These are all about an hour. Like I said, some of them are a couple hours because they're 2 or 3 hours. Activating Your Clairvoyant Magic. It's another training where we activate or reactivate your clairvoyance in, so that you can use it daily in your life, which is really important. I have another MP3 in there called Activate Your Money Tree, which is really amazing. It's a guided process where we go through and we help you to have a deeper understanding of your unique vibrational credibility and align you with your universal bank account. That's pretty cool. We have another MP3, Opening Your Psychic Channels to Manifest Your Life's Work and Prosperity. That's a pretty awesome training. Another one, 10 Surefire Ways to Open Your Psychic Channels and Deepen Your Connection to the Divine. Man, I've got a lot in this package. Chakra. I'm going, wow, there's a lot here. And I have another one, another MP3 called Chakras, Tools for Intuition and Healing. Again, these are all designed. I'm not going to go into all the details because you can read about them yourself. They're all designed to help you have the success through this program that you can easily get. There's another MP3, Creating Altars for Love, Prosperity, Healing, and More. There's one called Animal Totem Wisdom, using animal totem energy to enhance your psychic intuitive abilities, channeling skills, and your 4 clairs, so clairaudience, clairvoyance, clairsentience, and claircognizance. So that is a pretty amazing one. We talk about the wisdom and the energy or medicine of the animals and how they can help you with your intuitive life. And I've got a couple more. I've got a 3-part, this is a 3-hour program, Manifesting Your Soul's Deepest Desire. And this talks a lot about the energy of the 2012 shift, and really about why it's the lead-in for these years we're in now. And I did some energy clearing, some more energy clearing to align with the shift. And also, the third class is really about becoming crystal clear on your passionate heart and soul's desire, because having clarity around what we want to manifest is really important, because some of my clients actually have conflicting manifestations that they're trying to create. And if one happened, the other wouldn't. So that is a 3-part class. And then I've got Activating Your Clairvoyant Magic, which is another class. But the total value of this program is over $900. I think it's closer to $1,000. The retail value, if you were to buy these one by one, it's very low. I think it might even be $97.
I believe it is.
Yes, that's correct. So it's a pretty phenomenal package for what it is. And what I said at the beginning is that once you get yourself on the path to this, oh, and you know what I will do? I will throw in the 8 channels of alignment for manifesting prosperity, because I didn't go through it all, and it's just an added bonus. That would be, a useful thing.
Wow, that's amazing. I would love if everybody could have that.
Yes, absolutely. So it's definitely over $1,000, retail value if people were to buy that, one by one. And it's my gift of abundance. I've had some real big breakthroughs in my abundance, and this will help all of you have some big breakthroughs in your abundance and prosperity.
Absolutely incredible. I love this. Okay, so when we start working with this, what are some of the things that we can expect to start experiencing really quickly?
Well, what I want to say, too, is I want to say that when you get the program, there's no specific order that you have to do it in. What I would like you to do is kind of pick one of the audio, if it's a 2-part audio series, I do them together, or a 3-part audio series, I do them together. But pick one that really resonates with you right away, and just go through that program or that audio, and then move to the next one. So you're going to each be possibly experiencing this information in a different way, but all of you have a different life experience up to this point anyhow. I truly believe that if you commit yourself to listening to the audios and to really being in alignment with the energy that you're experiencing in these audios, and you put a little bit of intention into how you're moving forward, I will bet you will see manifestations happening very quickly. Things are going to start changing for you. I want you to be aware of all of the little significant, changes. Have gratitude for every little piece that comes across, because sometimes we discount things that aren't exactly what we asked for, but by having gratitude for what is coming to us and what we're already manifesting opens the floodgates for more to come. So every little thing, even if, you get a free ticket to something, or somebody, gives you a Costco membership because they had one and they had a business and they paid the extra, so many dollars to give you one too. Whatever it is, those are all things that are moving into your experience. So I believe that people are going to start seeing some dramatic shifts. And, really, we are responsible for our own shifts. But I really believe, truly in my heart, that when we start to surround ourselves with this kind of energy, it helps us. It's why I continue to, seek out new ways and new things that are going to help me catapult myself to the next level.
I love that. Okay, well, that's fantastic. And I love something that you mentioned in there, which is, please, everyone, when you start working with this, notice the small shifts that are taking place, correct? Yes. Does that help it's almost like our manifesting momentum a little bit?
Absolutely. Every little thing. I will honestly tell you that I don't know anybody who's been in any of these programs that hasn't had some shifts. And, your fears you can have some great shifts, and your fears can crop back up again. And what I want to say is, if they crop back up again and, start leading you again down towards the lack area, you can quickly turn yourself around and start going the other way again. It's a choice. And sometimes when we're used to being one way, if we're more attuned to lack, and you could be making $100,000 and still need to be, or $200,000 and still need to be keeping on attuning yourself towards prosperity. Because some people who make $100,000 or $200,000 also create as many expenses as, or more. They make 100, but they create 110,000 in expenses or whatever.
Right.
So no matter where you're at in the scale, you constantly need to be conscious of this. It's kind of like in those little pieces of gratitude that we can have, those little, those noticing anything little, even if it's like, your spouse made you breakfast in bed or whatever, anything that happens, just start noticing, because your energy's shifting when you're aligning with this information, and you're changing your life experience on all levels.
I love it. It's fantastic. And I love how you've put this together. And it's one of those things that I feel like we're all listening going, yeah, I can do this. So that's very exciting. And I just have to thank you for that. Again, like I told you before, you can just simply click on that special offer button that's on this page and you will be taken right there. Lynn, you're fantastic. Everything you've shared, we're able to start using right away, which I love. I love that exercise you took us through, or the visualization exercise that you took us through. I think that's so powerful and so quick. And, you've already armed us with these amazing tools that we can use on our path to prosperity and to keep us attuned to prosperity. And I really I want to thank you for that. And I want to thank you for your energy. It's so positive and you're just fantastic.
Thank you. It's been such a pleasure to be here. And it means a lot to me to know that I shared some pieces that are going to be helpful for the listeners, because my goal is for everyone to have the prosperity that they deserve and desire.
I so agree, and absolutely, there is some stuff we can use right now. Do you have any final words that you want to share with us before we head off?
I think really what I want to share is that you all are powerful beyond measure, and it's incredible what each of you are capable of, and I really invite you to step into that, because when we are in our divine power, life in general on all levels just becomes magical, and I really want that magic for you.
I love that. And yes, everyone, you are all absolutely magnificent. You can have all of that. As Lynn said, if you can't believe it yet, that's something that you can believe. So that's important to realize. I think you're all fantastic. I love being able to be here, spending time with you. Lynn, you've been fantastic. And so I will say goodbye to everyone until the next time. Keep manifesting. Bye-bye, all.